uh, um, I guess I would say, break ranks. I'm very mindful of that strategy. There were some other hands, yes.
Yeah, two questions. Just first, obviously, the government shutdown is continuing. I know DC government is up and running, but is there a point at which there's any concerns about potential impacts on the work here and just people that live in the district?
Well, there are concerns. So, and I probably should have led with this. The district government is open. I've talked with the Attorney General, who's comfortable with the legal theories behind our staying open. I've talked with the Chief Financial Officer, who's comfortable with the legal theories from his own lawyers, not from the Attorney General, about the government remaining open. And of course, the mayor and the council believe the government should be able to stay open. We have budget autonomy. Congress, of course, because they have plenary power, can at any point override budget autonomy, which is what they do when they adopt an appropriation act. But until they do, the budget that we adopted, that we transmitted to Congress, is law. There is some effect on some district workers. I can't really quantify this. I think this is a detail that if you want to know more, you would have to talk to the chief financial officer. My understanding is that there's some district government employees who are paid on federal grants that have stopped during the government shutdown. And so whether they continue to get paid, as of a week ago, when I talked to the chief financial officer, it wasn't clear. It's a very small number. But then, of course, there are going to be district residents who are federal government workers who are affected. So that will affect us and contractors who are not getting paid. And so that will affect us. So depending upon how long the shutdown lasts, we could see that it has some effect on the city's revenues. You'd have to go back to 2018 when there was the 30-day shutdown to see what that impact could be. So I don't want to say that there's no impact. I do want to add that if I remember correctly, in 2018, when the federal government shut down, the district government stepped in and picked up the trash on the mall and provided other services that typically the federal government does. My understanding is that to avoid that kind of embarrassment, somehow the relevant federal agencies have found the money to be able to provide some of those services, but we will step in the breach where we can.
And then just on the juvenile curfew, I'm just wondering how you feel like it's been the last couple months as far as effectiveness wise, because just this past weekend, there was several juveniles that were shot and none of them were really in these areas that we're seeing the curfew used. So is there something you think would need to be changed at all or modified?
Well, I think the main purpose of the curfew is to try to deal with some of the crowds of juveniles that we've seen in the past, such as on U Street or over in Navy Yard. And the curfew is also meant to be a deterrent. So the interesting thing is, a little bit of hesitation, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct in this, that the number of arrests, juvenile arrests for curfew violations was 0, but compliance was significant. And that's really what we want, is we don't want to be arresting kids, but we do want to make sure we don't have these crowds which seem to generate during the warmer months. Sam? No, Marquez, Sam.
Oh,
I know, but he's doing a follow-up, and we like Sam today, and he's in the front row.
So at the last legislative meeting, there was concern, to your point about the 0 arrests. Councilmember Henderson attributed that to the grassroots activists manning the metro stations and guiding youth along, reminding them about the curfew. So with them losing funding and with the ICE situation not quite, according to a lot of people, not quite being clarified, what are your concerns, if any, around extending this juvenile curfew, seeing already just prevalent concerns around policing and around how federal intrusion or just even presence of federal officers, whether there's a surge or not, sort of exacerbates the situation?
Well, we had the surge for 30 days in August. And by some reports, there hasn't been a lot of difference with regard to the surge since it ended, since the emergency ended. That is, there's still reports of ICE being out there doing their random enforcement actions, which are really, really obnoxious and counterproductive to public safety. So I don't expect that the influence of the surge or federal enforcement is going to make the picture look different with an extension of the curfew. I didn't say that very well, but we've had the curfew since July, and we had the surge beginning August 11th. And to the extent that you're right that there's still going to be an enhanced federal presence, I don't think we're going to see much difference the next 3 months that we've seen in the last two.
A lot of people differ, though. You know, people on the ground, they say differently.
What do you mean they say differently?
Well, not even say, they show it on Instagram and other platforms. They're going to document their experiences with police officers.
Well, no, that's a different question. So I think that, so there is concern that ICE is continuing to be active in the district and that their tactics are frightening to they're frightening to citizens. I mean, there was just a report, I want to say last week, but maybe it was actually the end of the week before, of a arrest outside of a charter school and 9 police officers. I think 2/3 of them, as I understood it, were federal, but there were maybe a third that were Metropolitan Police. That the MPD was actively involved in detaining these alleged undocumented individuals. I say alleged because there are reports that people are getting detained by ICE who turn out to be citizens or turn out to be here legitimately. And that is especially going to be likely when it appears that ICE is stopping individuals based on profiling, which is, in my view, completely inappropriate and unconstitutional. But these aggressive tactics are counterproductive. So you're saying, if your question is, well, are these tactics going to continue? I hope not. If your question is, are these tactics acceptable? The answer is unequivocally no.
My question is, under the current circumstances, is it appropriate to extend an emergency juvenile curfew? Why not? I'm not telling y'all how to do y'all job, but wouldn't there be some consideration around mitigating that issue first before you extend the juvenile curfew?
Well, I don't think we approach public order sequentially. I think we have to approach these things simultaneously, and I would say the two are unrelated. As far as I can tell, ICE really isn't interested in public safety anywhere in the District of Columbia. And you might have noticed, Sam, that the National Guard doesn't seem to be present in a lot of areas. And also when they're busy picking up trash or cutting the grass or doing, what do you call, leaf blowers, I don't think that's a whole lot of public safety work. So I don't think there's a lot of nexus between crime or public safety and the National Guard. And most of the interaction with the other law enforcement agencies is interaction that's gone on for decades between the FBI and MPD, our National Park Service and MPD. So I think the curfew, trying to relate the curfew to ICE activities, I see them as two separate functions and two separate impacts. As I said, ICE is not interested in juvenile behavior. They're interested in profiling. Mark.
So if I could somewhat follow up on have you, going back to the bilingual charter school arrest, have you watched that video?
I don't know if I saw the same one you did, but I did see a video.
Did you see video where where residents or people are seen asking questions about what's going on, and one of the DC police officers is clearly seen and heard saying, if you don't like what you're seeing, don't call 911 next time?
Is that and then also said to make up the story?
Make up the narrative, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's completely inappropriate, and I've filed a complaint with the Office of Police Complaints.
You're one of the people who actually filed a complaint on that?
Yes.
Because of what did you see that you didn't like?
Well, I want to, you said C, I want to emphasize, I read a long email about this, and I think the behavior as reported was completely inappropriate and that it should be investigated.
And are you clear on what MPD's policy is? And you keep saying ICE, and I think if anything that I've learned in the past week or so is in this reporting is that it's much more beyond just ICE. In that video, it's Homeland Security agents. In other videos, the mayor has called for Homeland Security agents to leave the task force because of this. So it's beyond just ICE making these enforcements. Are you clear with what MPD's current policy is regarding these interactions? And are you comfortable with whatever your understanding is?
I'm not clear and I'm not comfortable. So I have discussed this with the chief. It's been maybe a week, but I discussed it with the chief. And she was clear that the MPD was following the law, which is that, among other things, or to put it very simply, MPD cooperates when there is a judicial warrant. I don't think that's what's happening, which is why I would say I'm not clear and why I'm not comfortable. And I did also ask the chief about the incident at DC Bilingual.
I think maybe the Post wants to follow up on that.
Considering your concerns, is DC Council going to do any oversight of what's going on?
I can't speak to that because the oversight would probably be by the Judiciary Committee.
Understood, but do you as the council chairman think there should be oversight?
Whether it's a hearing or not, I don't know. I haven't thought that through, but definitely I think there should be some oversight. Yes.
Hey, Chairman, I wanted to ask about the Rental Act reconsideration. So is the new version of this bill going to retain the exemption from TOPA for buildings with, was it 2 to 4 units?
Yes.
And the only issue being reconsidered is that this was the way the language was written was to include single family homes. Are there any other changes to the legislation that are going to be considered?
I don't want to get too much into the weeds. When the bill gets reconsidered, the entire bill is before the council. I have discussed with members and said to them that this was the best approach, but with the understanding that we don't relitigate other issues. So other issues should not come up. And if they do, I will discourage them. With regard to the 2 to 4, the intent was not to impact the existing law with regard to single family, which has been exempt. And the amendment that had been moved was written in a way that it did implicate single family. So that'll be corrected. And it also sought to limit, it's sought to limit corporations from owning, from being exempt from TOPA if they owned, I think it was more than 2 buildings, 2 to 4 unit buildings. And I think the final language that was adopted also limited individuals. It was all, it was not well written, and that's what's getting fixed.
So,
And I don't have the fix in front of me, but we're trying to clarify it so that 2 to 4 would still be exempt. I think the the exemption from the exemption for corporations would still apply.
okay. And I guess I'm not clear on the single family thing. If single family buildings are already exempt from TOPA,
Yes.
and this is, I guess, the way it's written, redoubling that they're also still exempt from TOPA, what's the need?
No,
to go
not
back in?
redoubling. The amendment that was moved was read to implicate single family. There's this all gets into the weeds of how statutes are written.
Yeah.
There is not a single line in the code that says single family are exempt. There's like a whole, I want to say, chapter about it. And there's a process, and all that got messed up with the way the amendment was written.
Okay. And can you say more about feedback you got from multifamily owners on this bill and how that is contributed to having to then take it up for a reconsideration?
I can't speak for other members, but for me, it was feedback that I got from the Land Title Association. I think an important part of our fixing the law regarding tenant opportunity to purchase, or TOPA, which is an aspect that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, is the title companies and whether they're comfortable issuing clean title. And the reality has been that for years, the title companies have been unwilling to give clear title with regard to TOPA, just because there are tenant rights, and how does the title company know for certainty that TOPA was followed and that there are no TOPA issues? The bill largely fixed that, but then the amendment with regard to 2 to 4 units unfixed that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Martin?
So just following up on that line of questions, you mentioned that you had a meeting last Friday with council members to discuss.
Several.
How many was several?
I'm going to take my time answering that question.
Was it a quorum
Oh,
of the
gosh.
council?
What would a quorum be?
7.
I think it was 3 other members.
Okay. Given that you guys are going to,
Teasing him with that delay.
given that you're going to reopen debate over an amendment that was, now you guys all admit, was poorly written on the dais at the time that you were voting on a hugely consequential piece of legislation, and now you're going to reopen it, but to not relitigate the rest of the bill.
Yeah, that's possible.
What is it? What do you think it tells the public about the legislative process in the district, that number one, you guys messed up an amendment so significantly that you have to reopen it, but you're telling everybody, let's not talk about anything else that was also controversial. Let's just rewrite something that we messed up the first time.
I'm having some difficulty with that question, Martin, because as you know, the legislative process is a messy process. But the idea is that we come out with a policy, that is the law, a policy that is clear and actionable and doesn't have unintended consequences. And this is true with every legislature. They're not 100% right about that every time. And here, so we're going to go to a third reading. Big deal. And we'll fix it.
I mean, it does sound like a big deal. Like third readings are not things that happen often, generally.
They don't happen often, but they happen from time to time. I have no problem with a third reading. We're doing a third reading on a temporary bill on Tuesday, tomorrow as well.
Is there anything that you told your colleagues about introducing substantive amendments on the dais, the day of a second and final vote on large pieces of legislation? Like, would you discourage it in the future to say, listen, if you're going to do this, like circulate it 24 hours in advance, like we require of a lot of legislation?
Well, I want to say that is our policy. Don't get me too much into the rules. So the council rules do not prohibit last minute amendments, and they shouldn't prohibit last minute amendments.
Sure.
Because if you bring something to my attention and you're right, and I hadn't realized that, I ought to be able to fix things rather than, oh, we'll just pass the bill knowing that there's a problem. So we don't prohibit last minute amendments, but it's clear that we would like them circulated at least a day before. I think what happened with this is a lesson to members that these things need to be more carefully vetted before they're put before the body. But the process is, any legislative process is messy. You know the metaphor about sausage.
Chairman, question about 2 topics here. First, if I'd like to ask you, we now have 2 council members who have gone public and who have said that they're running for DC delegate. What's your response? And is there any concern that, a portion of your council is now going to be knees deep in campaign and how that may impact their local work? Do you have any concerns?
Well, we go through this every 2 years. John Wilson used to call it the silly season, starting a little early, but half the council, 7 members actually, will be up next year. And Although I guess one of the 7 has said she's not running for reelection. But we go through this every 2 years where half the council is up for election, and we just have to factor into our consideration that some members may be motivated by seeking an advantage in a campaign. Okay, that's just,
Do you have any endorsements at this point?
I have no endorsements at this point. You need a microphone. I can't hear you.
Well, doesn't, I'm not sure you understand. On the same subject, not only are the 2 council members going to be competing for this delegate seat as of this point, on January 12th, the trial of Trayon White is scheduled still to begin on January 12th. What is the council's position on him still serving on the council while he's in an active trial for felony bribery? And is he still not going to have any committees after January,
I don't.
other than committee of the whole?
The council is not allowed to have a position. That sounds a strange answer, but the Home Rule Act states, and the Home Rule Act was written by Congress, not by us, and it states that a member is able to serve unless they're indicted and, unless they're convicted while in office. While in office. You had a second question.
If I can ask,
I've actually answered that question before, Mr. Sherwood.
can you explain a little bit more? You were mentioning the love legislation. Can you talk about how this was treated in the past? Was it always the Department of Health as it relates to?
I believe so. I don't think there's anything new here, other than the fact that we have to do it because we have another government shutdown.
And as far as you know, are marriage licenses the only local judicial proceedings that are being impacted by the shutdown?
I haven't talked to the court, so I don't really know what's going on over there, but I suspect that the impacts are broader than just marriage licenses. The courts get their appropriation not from the council, but from Congress, so they don't benefit from the Budget Autonomy Act. On the other hand, I'm looking at what Councilmember Henderson said. The issuance of marriage licenses is a non-essential function of Superior Court. There are functions of Superior Court that are essential, such as criminal lockup, so that will continue. But I suspect that we're going to see other ways that the courts are affected. Mark?
Yeah, I have a follow-up and then a new topic. Following up, going back to the charter school bilingual video that you filed a complaint regarding, it
And I
sounded,
should be clear. I forwarded to the Office of Police Complaints. I asked them to investigate. I don't know if that is quote unquote a complaint. They got back to me and said that there had already been 3 complaints filed. They were consolidating everything. So I don't know if that technically constitutes a complaint filed by me.
I appreciate the clarification. Could you also clarify, it seemed to me that you said you called the chief about this incident.
I emailed her.
You communicated with the chief. She indicated police were following. It sounded to me like you don't believe the chief's narrative, that she told you that they were following law, but I think you said that you don't think that's actually happening. Can you kind of?
Yeah, chronologically, the order is different. So I talked to the chief about this maybe 10 days ago. It was before the incident, or before I saw got the email and saw the video. So my
Okay.
conversation with her was first. I did, however, forward the email to her and asked her about it.
And can-
The Office of Police mentioned.
This is getting more into it than I meant.
No, I'm just trying to
So-
clarify.
I received an email from the head of DC Bilingual. I forwarded that email to the chief and to the Office of Police Complaints. No. Now, I have to say, I think over the weekend, I've got about 6,000 emails regarding Empower, the drive company. So sorting through the inbox is a little difficult, but I'm not aware of a response.
And so what's your overall concern about?
Let me just add with regard to Empower. Our IT office said that this morning they had received 460,000 emails from them.
Where?
Empower. This is the company that the court threatened the CEO with being locked up for contempt.
So to get back to my question about particularly the incident that happened outside the school, can you just kind of elaborate on what your concern is about just both how that incident played out and you talked about the tactics that the federal agencies are using.
Sure. And let me say, I think Megan, you were next, and then I have a meeting that I have to go to, Capitol Council. My concern is this. We're told that MPD is not, I'll say MPD officers are not embedded with ICE. And when I say ICE, I'm referring more broadly, whichever agency it is within Homeland Security. And yet it appears that they were hand in hand. That's one concern. The second concern is the treatment by the MPD officers. So I think it's horrible what ICE is doing. We don't have control over them with regard to masks, identification, actually any of the tactics. And frankly, I think they're going to get sued and sued some more and sued after that for constitutional violations. But that's not us, even though we'll probably be sued as well. But MPD officers should be treating with respect all individuals. I was going to say DC citizens or DC residents, but all individuals. They should never be saying, I'm going to arrest you if you videotape this. Or they should never be saying, well, you make up the narrative. They just shouldn't be talking like that or being threatening or intimidating or disrespectful. Any of those. So that's what concerns me.
I appreciate it, and I respect your time. You did start a few minutes late. One other topic. Can you tell us if you have concerns or if you've talked to Board of Elections about implementing ranked choice voting?
No, I've not had any conversations about it.
Have
Zero
you-
conversation.
With anybody? Are you
With
concerned?
anybody.
Do you think ranked choice voting is on target to?
You certain ranked choice voting will be used?
All I know is that we funded aspects, maybe all of it, I'm not sure, of the initiative, the budget.
Does Mr. Sherwood want to put this on speakerphone for us?
No, but Megan, I think you were last.
Thank you.
You did have something?
Act. One of the concerns that came up in discussion about this amendment at the last meeting was its enforcement or certification process for, multifamily homes that have 2 to 4 units out there. Where, how are you going to actually enforce these new rules? Is the process clear enough? I'm wondering if that will be discussed at all. I am hearing from tenants that are in some of these buildings that are going up for sale or are up for sale and are confused about whether their TOPA rights exist.
I think that's broader than I'm able to answer. So I think there's some confusion about what we've enacted. I'm speaking more broadly or generally. For instance, a number of either developers or landlords approached me after final reading to say they thought it was outrageous that we had extended the TOPA timeframe. If anything, we contracted it. We didn't extend it. So there is misunderstanding out there. The council is not responsible for implementing the laws, as you know. We're not responsible for ensuring that everyone knows how the law is implemented or how they comply with the law. That's an executive function. The issue that's up for reconsideration is a very narrow issue. That is that the amendments that were made with regard to 2 to 4 units made the law unadministrable by the land title companies for any building under 5 units. And under 5, 2 to 4, yeah, under 5 units. And they brought that to our attention. And I ran that by a number of folks here at the council, including our general counsel. There was agreement that we had made that aspect of the law more difficult. So that's what we're focusing on. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. I guess you're saying it's not your responsibility to figure out how it's implemented, but isn't it to some extent? I mean, like,
We don't do the implementation. So DHCD, for example, has an office that deals with
no,
TOPA. There's the Office of the
understand, but
Tenant
like, is
Advocate.
it clear within the law how this will be carried out?
I have no reason to think that it isn't. I have a very open door, and generally housing providers and tenant advocates and developers approach me when they see that there's something that's a problem. And then I look at it. So I've been approached about two things, the title issue and about extending the deadline.
Is this retroactive, like other aspects of the Rental Act, or is it just prospective? So it won't kick in until it's signed by the mayor, goes through congressional review.
You're talking about the 2 to 4 unit
Exemption,
issue?
yeah.
I'm not positive, but I believe it's prospective. I think the only thing that we've done that arguably is retroactive, and I don't think it is the 15 years new construction. They,
Association who.
Land
came to your
Title
office with
Association.
This concern.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much.